As a photographer, I'm always looking for inspiration and new ideas. For me, this is usually in the shape of a portrait and telling a story. Now, to tell a story, it usually involves somebody or something important from the past. Now, with this in mind, I'm trawling the internet and I'm looking at some great, gritty black and white portraits. Now, this particular image popped up and I was completely sold on it. I did a little research and that man is John Philip Holland, the father of the modern day submarine. After seeing this, it had everything I was looking for. Basically, it's a portrait, but there's a lot of surrounding elements to the image that add interest, and more importantly, it allows me to build things.
JP Holland was born in County Clare, Ireland in 1841. Studying at the local school, he eventually joined the Order of the Irish Christian Brothers in 1858 and became a teacher. During his first assignment, he was encouraged in his scientific experiments by Brother Dominic Burke.
Hello there.
Studying astronomy and working on the theory of flight, he also built model submarines and used the school's pond to test his designs. In 1873, Holland followed his mother in emigrating to America. It was here that Holland refined his submarine designs while recuperating from a broken leg. Although the US Navy dismissed his plans as unworkable, the Irish revolutionaries, the Fenians, commissioned Holland to build a model, and after that proved a success, this 14-foot craft led to the 31-foot-long Fenian ram. Unfortunately, after disagreements with the Fenians, this prototype was left in a warehouse until 1916, after which it was put on display. You can see it today at Patterson Museum in New Jersey. Seeing the success of the larger craft, Holland was given funding by the US Navy, which ultimately left to the Holland Mark VI, which was sold to the US and Japanese navies, and, ironically, the target of the Fenian ram, the British Navy. Holland died soon after the start of World War I, just 40 days before the lethality of submarine warfare began.
When I saw the picture of him in the submarine, it had everything. Black and white, gritty, and told a great story. I knew I wanted to recreate this from the get-go to the absolute T with a set build. Not a huge set build, but a set build that adds to the portrait. The submarine arch, casting for JP Holland, hair, makeup, lighting, everything as close as I can get to the original image. Usually my sets tell my own stories and my own interpretations, but with modern day equipment, the lights, the cameras that we're going to use, we're going to bring in colour JP Holland back to life.
Deep in the Welsh valleys, the crew of Skint Creative are hard at work with the start of the set build. Ian has decided to start off with the central piece of the submarine, the conning tower. Placing that, he can tell how high the supports have to be and how much has to be trimmed to make it the right size. Knowing this is critical for the build as, once cut, there's no going back after a mistake. Next, the supports are cut and screwed together from some scrap wood. They have to be sturdy enough to hold the entire weight of the set build and to secure it from knocks and bumps.
My name is John. I'm looking forward to playing JP Holland. I met Ian last year in a photo shoot called The Kiosk, where I played a vicar. I can't wait to put that bowler hat on and a suit and get into that submarine.
The base plate has to have multiple holes drilled all over, a simple job for the right tools.
So that's the base plate done, as you can see here. It wasn't without its problems. You can probably guess right now, my mood is pretty much destroyed. I've burnt out one drill and resorted to this cordless drill to finish the job off. However, we have finished it off. 112 holes later, and a job that I thought originally would be quite easy and straightforward to do turned into a bit of a nightmare. But it's done. I'm excited. That is the base plate, finished, apart from paint, for the conning tower of the submarine. After the drama of drilling the holes in the base plate that's in front of me here, I'm glad to say that everything else went quite smoothly. As you can see, I'm sat pretty much underneath the turret of the submarine, and the plasterboard was cut with a jigsaw. Now the jigsaw was typically Skint Creative style. It was given for free by my Polish friends, and it was untested. The saw blade was bent, so with a little bit of TLC I managed to get the thing up and running pretty much first time, and the job went absolutely smooth. So yeah, we're pretty much ahead of time, and happy bunny. Yesterday was fantastic. It was quite productive, and I thought I could come here this morning and carry on in that vein, but I had a bit of a nightmare really, just with little things like I picked up the conning tower, the turret as it were, and dropped it. It smashed a bit of the plasterboard hole, then went on to have one of the trestles collapse that holds the plasterboard base, and then used some glue to try and glue some hardboard banding around to make the surrounding lid area, and it started off fine. I used belt and braces and used glue and screws, or tacks rather, and the glue was dried, forming these mucky large lumps. So I fear that that's going to be a fair bit of extra work trying to clean it off, sand it off, or file it off, blow it off, cannon it off, or whatever it is. So all in all, a little bit slow this morning, but I suppose that's a small price to pay for the success that we had yesterday. where we made a lot of ground. So the next step will be to plaster on some grab adhesive onto the rim of the lid area where the character's hands will go, and then start filling with an exterior filler where we can then sand it to the shape we want and get it smooth before starting the painting process. But yeah, a little bit slow, not quite so enthused, and it's not all glamour. So I'm just smoothing this area around the rim down now, and it will take a rather long time to set. So following this week, I'll return and put a final layer on that I can finally use to sand and shape the final finish to the top of the conning tower.
Hi, my name's Gaz. I'm a part of Skin Creative Studio. Me and Ian go back a long way. We first met in 1996 when we first started working together. I'll be honest, when I first met him, he wasn't my cup of tea at all, and somebody I'd never thought I'd be friends with. However, 24 years later, it's obviously true that opposites do attract. So it wasn't until 98 that we became firm friends. We started bodybuilding together. Ian going on to do shows. Not that you tell by either of our conditions at the moment that we used to be full-on hardcore bodybuilders, but that was a long time ago. So fast forward on a few years, we went through the gym stage together, working when Ian had his gym. 2008, Ian started to get into photography, and for me it was a welcome return. Ever since before I was a teenager, I was interested in photography, into black and white darkroom developing and processing through a darkroom. Had a break away from it, and then 2008, like I said, got back into it with Ian. Fast forward on a good few years, and 2016 we managed to get hold of the studio and set up Skin Creative, and that's where we are today. So my role in a lot of Ian's projects is the brains. So he'll come up with a lot of ideas, and then he'll say, well, how am I going to do that? And that's where I come into a lot of it. Hands-on, making a lot of his props, a lot of his studio stuff, making sure everything fits together for him.
Today's been the day that I've decided to go for the start of the paint job on the submarine, and a couple of things. We were looking for a battleship grey sort of colour, a steel looking colour, and it was very important that it was a matte finish, not a silk or a gloss. So because it needed a few coats, rather than go for a specific colour that could potentially be out of stock, I've gone for a large tin of white matte emulsion and a tin of black matte emulsion. I have full control over the colour spec of the paint, and if after one coat or two coats it needs lightening or darkening, then I know that I'm in full control to achieve the look that we want. So the initial first coat didn't really matter what sort of colour grade we had, because we could always adjust as we go. So the first coat literally took, I would have thought, about 25-30 minutes max. That's including the conning tower as well. So give us a bit of a base that we can now look forward to adjusting and tweaking as we see fit.
I met Ian about 4 years ago in Birmingham at the NEC. It was a photo show and he was on a stand doing lighting tutorials. As part of that setup, he was dressed up as a redneck sort of character with Terry, who had a wedding dress on, and they were doing a sort of a redneck wedding type shot. We had a good chat on the day and we kept in touch. Then a few weeks later I had a frantic phone call from Ian. He was trying to sort some images out that he was going to submit to the Kelby One gallery competition in America. He had some issues with the formatting and some problems with his website, which I managed to sort out for him. We became friends since then, and I now work on all the Skin Creative projects. I realised as soon as I seen the original photograph of JP Holland that the details on the conning tower and the deck would be ideal candidates to be 3D printed. I took some basic measurements from the photograph and from the culvert pipe, and then created the parts in a 3D design program. 3D printing is not a quick process, and printing these parts took over 2 days in total.
With these projects, we usually encounter a number of problems, and to be fair, sometimes you even question whether or not you can be fully committed to the project itself and whether or not it'll work. However, there's also a time in these projects where things just come together, and today was that day.
Tredegar is the home of Ace Costumes, owned by an old friend of Ian's. And this is where John will be dressed in full Edwardian finery to bring the spirit of JP Holland back to life.
My name is Cal Evans. I'm co-owner of Ace Theatrical Costumes here in Tredegar in South Wales. We make and supply theatrical costumes to amateur companies up and down the country. We've been in existence for probably 12 years now. We seem to be going from strength to strength with an ever-increasing stock. We probably met Ian close on 5 years ago now through a camera club that was using us to supply costumes for their photo shoots. Since then, Ian comes and goes as he pleases. He pops in, he asks for the impossible, we try to oblige. Ian's latest project is based on an actual person, and therefore we need to be slightly more accurate with the dates. He can't have any of his fantasy costumes or the wild and wonderful things that he often picks off the rails and says, will this do? So we will be looking at some actual Edwardian clothing, not a made-up costume as such.
It's September, and the Skint team are visiting the Holland One, the first commissioned submarine in the British fleet and the first of a batch of 6 ordered. She was built in 1901, suffered some mishaps in testing, and eventually lost in 1913 while on tow to be scrapped. She was raised in 1982 and put on display in Portsmouth Royal Navy Submarine Museum.
Finally, we've made it to the Naval Museum in Portsmouth. My initial reaction to the sub, the Holland One, is that it's larger than I thought for such a small vessel, but also inside it's very, very cramped, but it's in pristine condition. And if you just look inside, you really can get a feel for what the sort of the sailors had in those days and the conditions that they were living and working in. But it's utterly fantastic and in great condition. Holland submarine today for real has given me an idea just about how much detail I need to include when I get back to the studio. I'm always thinking of the next big project, bigger and better, and this is it.
I think we're going to need a bigger studio.
The day of the shoot arrives and, arriving early, Ian has decided to take some test shots of the set. The flashes are making the entire thing look white, so he sprays the entire set lightly with black spray paint so it settles like dust and dulls down the colour to the gunmetal he wants. There are a lot of last-minute fixes and bodges, including fixing the hatch stand, which was accidentally smashed by Richard, who backed into it while shooting video. John's hair is too light for the look of Holland, so a temporary hair dye is applied to one side of his head and to his moustache.
Here we go.
Finally, everything is coming together, and the main lights are brought in and adjusted to Ian's direction. John is installed in the submarine and will have to stay there for the next 2 hours, occasionally being brought tea. The team is using a new Sony camera rather than the usual Canon that Ian is familiar with. So Ian has to hook it up to a laptop to give them better definition of their composed image.
That's better. But now if you can just lean to your right, okay, and just drop 3 inches. Just drop all down again and again. Stop. That's really good. Okay, here we go. Hold that 1 and 2 and 3. Awesome. And hold that. There we go.
Additional tweaks to the set and John's poses are made between each shot, bringing them closer to the image that's in Ian's head.
Okay, mate. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. That's fantastic. That's it. Okay. Right, your right hand, close your index finger in a bit. That's it. That's cool. Okay. Hold that, mate. Okay. Can you nip into the collar? Hold that steady, mate. Okay. That's a great shot. Awesome, mate. And relax a minute.
And the shot is done. However, all that work on the set wasn't just going to be used for one portrait. From the very beginning, it had been planned that another portrait in the Journeyman series would be shot. But first the submarine had to be distressed, repainted and covered in grime. Layers of rust and barnacles had to be added over multiple days, ensuring it would look like the submarine had been submerged for a century. More and more layers are added, each one staining and adding to the crust and patina of the layer below. Scars and scratches into the hull are made with saw and drill, then given a rust red finish to add depth and contrast to the shot.
So we're here at the beach where we collect in bits and pieces that we can decorate the submarine with to suggest that it's been underwater at the bottom of the ocean for a number of years. The kind of stuff I've got is this damp, wet, green algae that's pretty yuck, and also a pot of shingle that can dry out and we can sprinkle that onto the sub, and also some of these limpet shells, and we can glue them onto the sub and then paint them down and distress them accordingly.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a hair and makeup artist at Skin Creative. I was called up today to be part of Holland and Beyond as a hair makeup artist and attaching prosthetics to Ian's face. It was my first time doing prosthetics, which was very interesting, and we managed to have prosthetics pre-made, and I attached them to each side of his cheeks with Pros-Aid, and it turned out really well. I'm really pleased with it. Can't wait to see the images.
So we've just finished the shoot. I'm very happy, even though I may not look happy, I really am. And we didn't really encounter as many problems as I thought we would. However, a lot of things had to come together at the right time to make this shot work. A couple of things like using fresh fish that was sort of cut in half. One half goes into my pocket whilst the other that goes in my mouth. So once that was done, We had to align the tail with the knot in my tie, make sure that my outfit was immaculate and there was no sort of creases or buttons undone, as it were, and also the seaweed that was on my shoulder, my hat and the surrounding areas all had to stay in place whilst looking surprised for the expression that I wanted on camera, so that the camera could pick up the eye focusing technique and peer through the glasses lens and get a nice sharp shot. That, along with the smoke, really brought together a lot of different aspects to make the shot what it is. And yeah, the set build itself really took shape, I think, on the last but one day, possibly when we added the limpet shells and the shale, etc., that we collected from the beach. So yeah, overall very happy. The lighting technique was quite simple. We used 3 lights and that covered the areas we wanted, but we were also mindful of reflections in the lens of the glasses, so the positioning of the lights had to sort of document that really. But overall, very happy. But fish really does make a bad taste in your mouth.